Hey guys, what's up and welcome to a new Tesla update video. So today, as per usual, let's go over the markets, let's go over Tesla, let's talk about what potentially happened, or I mean maybe even didn't happen. And yeah, let's just get right into it. So as usual, if you guys enjoyed, don't forget to hit that like button, it does help a lot. And also as usual, none of this is financial advice. Make your own decisions, do your own research. Tesla, end of the day, pretty much flat, but still down 0.22% on a fairly overall green market day where most things are up, other than I guess Disney, which is also essentially flat. But the market up at fair amount, about 1.5% for both SPY and QQQ. So Tesla being essentially flat, regardless, is still a fair, not a severe, but definitely a fair underperformance for sure. So let's just get into it, guys. Let's talk about it. Let's see what is happening, and I'll give you guys something else that I found on Twitter that could help us struggling bulls. Let's just say maybe get a little bit of hope, I guess. So all that being said and done, down to 0.22%, putting us at 137.49 So there's essentially the main thing to pay attention to is the fact that we are essentially within two different things, right? Two little channels. So the main channel that we are still in, this massive descending channel that we started way back in the 230s, roughly, way back on, well, not really there, but most like late October, I would say roughly. Is of course the blue lines, right? That's the most obvious one, of course, here that we are still very much within, and that we are still trading. And at the very moment, at the very bottom of this channel, as you can see, right? We started here, bounced, and then we are potentially, hopefully, fingers crossed, going to bounce from here. The fact that we still held is a good sign. The fact that we didn't go, I mean, we did close lower than yesterday, which isn't ideal, but it's very close to being pretty much the same. But the fact that we're holding this area in general, and we did kind of slip below, but we got recaptured once again right above this line, is a good sign, right? That's not too bad. I mean, it's not the best sign in the world, obviously, because it's not really showing us that much, but definitely a massive fight with the bulls and the bears today, as you can see how pretty much the same length wick at the bottom and the top. So definitely a bit of a battle there, but nonetheless, we are holding this general crucial level right now, which is of course with the potential area for a bounce. But if you go on a shorter time frame, you can see the yellow lines is like a mini channel within a channel that we are also arguably within, which we're also obviously pretty much at the bottom of this channel that we bounced off of. I mean, somewhat bounced off of so far, but overall holding. Now, again, there's nothing really suggesting that Tesla is at or is it going to reverse here, right? Other than the fact that we are at the bottom of this channel. But keep in mind, channels can break easily, right? This channel can just break to the south side, and we can just somehow, believe it or not, even though it makes you just wonder, like, how much lower can this fall without some relief at first at least. Yeah, you never know. So this, in theory, you can just break down below this kind of 135, we'll just say roughly, area, and just plummet down to the next level of 130, maybe even as low as 120. Absolutely possible. So there's nothing truly suggesting just yet. I mean, you can argue this was somewhat of an inside day. I mean, not really, mainly because we also did close lower than yesterday. So it was like kind of close to being an inside candle, but like definitely also not. So definitely, an extremely suspicious inside candle. So I would put almost next to no weight on it, but the point of the reason I bring it up is because it was almost there. On top of that, it was also, I forgot the candle's called, but where the open and the close is essentially almost the exact same. We were trading at that for a large portion of the day, and I was hoping we would close around there, which would have been around 139 or so, which would have been a bullish reversal sign. Unfortunately, we didn't, and we did close lower than I would have liked to see to really truly confirm a bullish reversal. And yeah, we didn't get that, which is very unfortunate. So that's not something I want to see. However, the one thing that we can be potentially forming is that pattern regardless, where so we had a massive long red candle. Now we have a candle where the bulls and the bears are fighting, and the candle itself, the thickness of it is dead center, and it's it's not massive, but it's not small enough either, right? Like this, the red part of it, right? Like this part right here. Ideally, what we can potentially get tomorrow, hopefully, in order to potentially get a reversal start to set up and look a little bit juicier, is essentially the exact same candle, right? I wish I could I'll just draw like a horrendous looking version of it. But let's say the candle tomorrow is something like this. Right? It's not really letting me. It's not letting me draw in the center of this, which is a little bit annoying. So let me draw. I'll just draw it fatter so that I can draw it in the center. But let's say tomorrow's candle something like this, or even better, let's say tomorrow's candle is. Drawing is very difficult on this, I must say. Or let's say tomorrow's candle is something like this instead. The point is the fact that open and the close, you can see like the width of the candle, say tomorrow, is like this, right? If we get this kind of candle tomorrow, this to me would be extremely bullish and pretty much almost a guaranteed reversal sign, mainly because it's going to be, again, that, you know, I forgot the name of this pattern or the name of this candle. It's like escaping me, but essentially when the open and close is as close together as possible, bullish sign as well. It's a reversal, you know, whether it's for the good or for the bad. So if you're in a downtrend and it happens, it's a reversal to the back to the uptrend or back up somewhere, and vice versa. If it's in an uptrend and it happens, that probably means that a downtrend is about to start, right? So that's kind of what that is. And on top of that, it would be more or less an inside day candle, which is yet another potential reversal pattern as well. So ideally tomorrow, I would like to see a candle that looks something like this. Whether it's green or red doesn't matter too much, in all honesty, for these kind of candles. But you know, I would like to see something like this tomorrow. If we get something like this tomorrow, very, very bullish in my honest opinion. And I think that would be like a 90% chance out of, you know, finally like an actual serious reversal coming up. Now, let's talk about the reversal. In theory, of course, if we were to get a reversal coming within the next, let's say, couple of days or so, which I know at this point seems like it's crazy and it's nonsense. Tesla's going down to $20 a share, you know, whatever. But, you know, using emotion aside and everyone, you know, you have to keep in mind whenever we're in a massive downtrend, especially, of course, in a bear market like this, the bears are going to start getting extremely loud. Like, it's important to gauge sentiments. Like, remember back when we were over here and everyone was just excited and thinking Tesla's going to all-time highs and it's going to like 500 a share, nothing's stopping it, it's impossible. Well, that's the kind of the sentiment you want to be scared of. When everyone's excited and ecstatic, that's kind of scary. However, on the flip side, when everyone is just bearish and everyone is just convinced Tesla is dead, the company is dead, the stock is dead, Elon destroyed it, he killed it, Elon sucks, who cares about Elon, screw Elon, the stock is going down to 25, it's over, you know, sell, you know, when you see that kind of stuff, you know, same concept, just flip, right? Just food for thought, right? Doesn't mean it has to happen. It's right away. It takes, you know, a little bit of time, of course, to build up, but that's kind of what I'm seeing or starting to see for sure, right? So that's number one. But again, if in theory we were to get a potential bounce, reversal like that, like I just mentioned, and the bounce begins, let's say maybe end of this week or whatever, something like that, give or take, right? And I say this happens to be the bottom, whether it's for now or for later, I would expect a bounce at the very least to the 50% Fibonacci, which will pretty much, maybe this 618, right? But essentially somewhere around the 160s, which will pretty much bring us to the top of this blue channel, right? And that's essentially where I would personally see Tesla going up. Somewhere around the 165, give or take, like, you know, a few points would be my main price target, at least, you know, for now. And then from there, you kind of see how it reacts, and maybe it'll break out, maybe we go even lower, right? Who knows? But that's the first thing I would personally look at if we get a bounce from here. And just through what this wedge and this, or channel, if you will, the downward channel looks like, this would be the spot to bounce, man. This would be the spot to bounce. So if we don't get a bounce from this area, honestly, man, that will be substantially disappointing. Let's just say this doesn't mean this has to be the bottom. In fact, with the way Tesla's performing, I wouldn't be surprised if this is not the bottom. But I would also be surprised if we don't get some kind of bounce from this general area. Because keep in mind, like I said, I think yesterday I mentioned it, we did gap fill this area, this level over here, which was, you know, a massive gap right there. So that has been gap filled, which is of course really good. But, you know, not every single gap has to get filled. Like, for instance, we have a gap all the way down at $17. Is Tesla going to go to $17? No. I mean, I guess in theory, it's technically not possible, but highly, exceptionally unlikely, right? So that's something else to consider, right? Not every gap has to get filled, but that one, that was a pretty obvious massive gap that kind of makes sense for it to get filled. Well, it got filled. And, you know, massive gap fills like that tend to be also pretty decent areas for bounces, because that's where a lot of traders can start slowly piling in. Now, another thing to keep in mind on the daily, you can see, is the RSI, right? So if we open up the RSI, whenever Tesla came down to these extreme oversold levels like this right here, as you can see, and now we're in there like 3 times now, right? So this is getting extremely oversold. Whenever it came down to these kind of levels, you can see it followed up with massive bounces that obviously don't happen, you know, within a week or whatever. But every time it came down to these levels, it followed up with at least a fairly sizable bounce. And even when we came down over here, we came up with a sizable bounce, and now we're pretty much actually even lower when, you know, and again, these are the levels that Tesla usually has fairly sizable bounces as well, right? And you also have this chart that I found over here where I don't know who he is, but he did post how he's no longer, you know, you no longer want to be short Tesla. Our thinking here is to initiate small longs, right? And he pretty much brings up the same concept over here, as you can see with Tesla, where, you know, the arrows, wherever Tesla gets this oversold on the RSI, which is essentially where we are right now. That he's wait, this is not the RSI. I'm not sure what metric this is actually that he's using over here. But the point is the pattern is whenever it gets to these low levels that we are essentially at right at this very moment, it does get some pretty substantial bounces coming up within the next, month-ish, let's just say, give or take, right? And that's kind of what we're seeing right now, and that's kind of where we are now. We'll see if that actually comes into fruition, and that large bounce to me, I mean, could be just the 1 to 260 or 160, which doesn't sound like it's a lot, but I mean, from here, that's a 20% jump, which is a fair, a decent amount, though it feels like nothing because we've dropped so much that going back to 160 feels like, well, I guess that's all we're getting, right? Doesn't feel like it's a lot, but 20% upside within the next month is, technically it is quite a bit. It's just for most people that are probably back holding it, with myself included, it doesn't feel like it's a lot, even though it is. But nonetheless, that's kind of what I'm seeing at the very moment. Now, of course, the major indicators, we're not going to look at any of them except for this one because we're obviously below everything other than this one, which can give us a potential sentiment. Now, we did get tight here, and then now it is, of course, massively expanding. So I would expect it also to come up to this white line of the Bollinger Band probably over the next maybe week or two or something like that. Probably like 2 weeks, I would say, roughly. Maybe if we're lucky next week. It's not impossible with how fast Tesla can move that we've seen, whether to the downside or to the upside. Don't forget, guys, very important. I know Tesla seems like it's falling off a cliff because, I mean, it is. But it also happens to also rocket when it does a rocket, right? It's just one of those stocks where when it starts going, whether it's for better or for worse, whether it's for the bears or the bulls, right? This thing moves extremely aggressively once it starts moving, which we've seen that to the downside. We've seen that plenty of times to the upside over here as well. Just food for thought. We still have a gap all the way up here, a very noticeable gap at 265. Hey, we're filling 265 soon, guys, right? All gaps fill, right? It has to. I mean, I do think we'll fill that eventually. I just don't think it'll be anytime soon. But nonetheless, right? That's kind of what I'm seeing at the very moment, right? So there's still a lot of signs. I hate being like a broken record, and I feel like I'm always a broken record when it comes to these situations because I'm always saying these things like a little early. Like I'm always like a week or two early, right? Same thing back when I was doing up here. It always felt like I was just a week-ish or two early, and I feel like I'm doing the exact same thing, though I do feel like we're pretty much more or less at a potential inflection point, which, if there's a place to bounce, man, this is the next spot, because again, it's the bottom of this channel. I would be like ridiculously surprised if it doesn't hold. Like I would be like, that would legitimately surprise me. So I'm personally expecting this channel to hold. I'm personally truly expecting a bounce here. Am I betting on the bounce by buying calls? No, because what I'm gonna do personally is wait till it gets here, probably get puts. If it starts falling back down from here, fantastic, at least I have some puts to hedge my longs. If it doesn't and we rally out of here, my puts will of course lose. However, my long shares will win, and I'll be able to also start getting ready to sell longer dated calls. So that's my personal plan as of right now, and I'm just kind of patiently waiting for that. I have sold puts, so we'll see what happens with that, of course, as well. But that's essentially what I'm seeing. So let me know what you guys think down below. This video is already 12 minutes and a half, so I didn't think it was this long. Maybe I'm rambling on for too long. I don't really know, but that's what I'm seeing. Let me know what you guys think down below, and I'll see you for the next one. Peace.